This happened back in the fall of 2019. At the time, I was working as a freelance graphic designer, which meant I spent a lot of my days in coffee shops and my nights driving back to my apartment in a pretty remote part of upstate New York. My car back then was a total junker, an old 2005 sedan that had over 200,000 miles on it. I knew I needed a new one, but I was trying to save up a bit more before making the jump. That turned out to be a huge mistake. One night, I stayed late at a 24-hour diner to finish a project for a client. By the time I packed up my laptop and headed out, it was just after 3:15 a.m. The drive home usually took about 40 minutes, most of it through a stretch of highway that was flanked by nothing but dense forest and the occasional abandoned farmhouse. About 20 minutes into the drive, my car started making this horrific grinding noise. Before I could even pull over, the engine let out a loud pop. Smoke started pouring from the hood, and I lost all power. I managed to coast onto the shoulder, but I was in a total dead zone. No cell service, no estretlits, just me in the woods. I sat in the car for about 10 minutes, debating whether I should start walking or wait for a passing car. It was freezing out, so I decided to stay inside with the doors locked. After about half an hour, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror. A large, dark pickup truck slowed down and pulled over about 50 feet behind me. A man stepped out. He looked to be in his late 50s, wearing a heavy flannel jacket and a baseball cap pulled down low. He looked like a typical local, so I felt a small wave of relief. He walked up to my window, and I rolled it down just a crack. Car trouble? He asked. His voice was incredibly deep, but he sounded friendly enough. I explained the situation, the noise, the smoke, the lack of signal. He nodded slowly and told me he lived just a few miles up the road and had a tow chain in his truck. He offered to tow me to his place where I could use his landline and wait for a proper tow truck in the morning. Against my better judgment, I agreed. I was tired, I was cold, and I just wanted to be out of the dark. He hooked up the chain, and we started moving. For the first few miles, everything seemed fine. But then he took a sharp right turn onto a dirt logging road that definitely wasn't just up the highway. I tapped my brakes to get his attention, but he didn't slow down. I started honking my horn, but he just kept driving deeper into the woods. The road was getting narrower and the trees were closing in. My heart started racing. I realized that since my engine was dead, I had no power steering and very limited braking. I was literally at the mercy of wherever he was pulling me. Finally, we reached a small clearing with a dilapidated cabin. He stopped the truck, but he didn't get out. He just sat there. I sat in my car, clutching my pocket knife, staring at the back of his head through his rear window. After a minute, his truck's reverse lights came on. He started backing up, slowly, ramming the front of my car. Not hard enough to deploy airbags, but hard enough to jolt me. He did it again, and again. It was like he was testing to see how I'd react. Suddenly, the man got out of his truck, but he wasn't looking at me. He walked to the back of my car and started fiddling with the tow chain. I realized this was my only chance. I jumped out of the driver's seat and started sprinting back down the dirt road as fast as I could. I didn't look back until I heard his truck engine roar. He wasn't following me, though. I hid in a thicket of bushes and watched as he unhooked my car, pushed it into a steep ravine near the cabin, and then drove off in the opposite direction. I spent the next 4 hours walking back to the main highway. When the police eventually found the cabin, it turned out the man didn't live there. In fact, no one had lived there for years. Inside the cabin, they found dozens of license plates from cars that had been reported missing over the last decade. My car was found at the bottom of the ravine, but the weirdest part? When the police inspected it, they found that my engine hadn't just failed. Someone had crawled under my car while I was in the diner and partially sawed through my oil line. He wasn't a good Samaritan who happened to find me. He was the one who ensured I'd break down on that highway in the first place.